It's not recording.
Is that what it is?
It is.
Recording.
It says so in the corner.
Did that start with me doing that whining? Now I need to do man tone. Men. My name's Kenny and Mammarella-D'Cruz. Welcome to MenSpeak Radio. We've all done MenSpeak Radio before, apart from you, Des.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what you have done is in lockdown, we did that recorded men's group online. Do you remember that one? That you can watch at mensgroups.co.uk. But on the book page, there's that. Don't you remember? 9 of us did that recorded group to demonstrate men check-in. So that's what you did. And Nigel's been in the Stu studio a couple of times at least. Yeah. So here we are again. The object of the exercise is to, what's the strap line? Hang out, be heard, and get real. Which might be a bit dodgy because things have been a bit dodgy. This is the end of 2020, the year of the dodge. In fact, there's not a lot to dodge apart from people wearing masks that might contaminate and kill you. So we've had a very, very strange year. And one of the earliest memories that I have, the last memory I have of freedom, was Andrew and I went to the theatre. And on the way, a musical, our friend Adrian's wife was in it. Bank robbers, something about bank robbers. On the way back, I get a WhatsApp from Bertie, because Bertie and I have been hanging out and working together for a long time. And he says, I've got the symptoms. Maybe you should self-isolate. So came home. And I've been home ever since, pretty much. What was that? March. So self-isolating. And I noticed, weirdly, because, you know, working from home, everything's cool, whatever. But I noticed that there was something back there at the back of my mind. And I'm not sure if it was thoughts, but it was certainly emotions. There was something bothering me. And if I was a less aware young gentleman, then what I'd typically do would be dump it on someone or bully someone or kick the cat, pass it on type thing. But I thought, oi, oi, what's that then? So I did what I, bore all of you lot for years saying to do. I kind of breathed into the feeling and I followed the feeling back, and it took me straight back to, the bit I forgot to say is working from home. I kept checking out the window, expecting to see the military. And it's like, where've they gone? What's going on? But, they weren't there. And I kept expecting to hear gunfire. And then I realized that when I was a kid and we were in hiding and there was curfew, there was the military and there was gunfire as normal and a lot of other nasties. So did my lockdown, and I thought, and then a few days later, the country went in lockdown, and here we've pretty much been, or the world went into lockdown, and here we've pretty much been ever since. And I thought, if I'm going to get triggered, then surely other people will get triggered. And surely people might get, in the head, depressed, isolated, weirded out, and kind of like lash in or lash out on those around them because there's anxiety or a need for a space, or, who knows what would be triggered. Bad boys being locked in the laundry room or being sent to boarding school or, whatever it was. So that's when we started the men check-in groups, and we've been running them every weekday lunchtime ever since, and every day since November. And Des, you've become a facilitator, which is brilliant. Greg, we've met, once, maybe twice, and you've been on in facilitating. You haven't been yet, Nigel, so you're a bit of a funny one, aren't you? Yeah. Meanwhile,
not the only one to say that.
You've been to groups for a long time, and you've been doing, apart from kicking it all off, I guess, with my isolation, doing a lot, Bertie, holding your young men's groups and the admin and the design and your blogs and everything. So it's been a huge, huge, bloody, life-changing, on the edge type year. And we are here today to hang out and record a kind of men's group radio thing, and just to kind of like check in and say, happy birthday, Bertie, happy old year 2020. And this is how we do it. So that was quite an intro, and I haven't even supped my coffee yet. Mensgroups.co.uk, and you can download the ground rules or check them out, which we've obviously done. And then the next thing we do is everyone cool with the ground rules?
Yes.
Yeah. And everyone says yes. Otherwise, someone might say, no, please add this or please change that. And then we all own the rules rather than the rules telling us. And then we do 2-minute silence. So here's 30 seconds instead. So Bertie wanted topics, 2 topics. What's been triggered? And I'm going to squeeze in my 3, 2, 1, fuck it, because it's life-changing. So let's check in with your name, how you feel right now, and what's been triggered, first thing that crosses your mind right now, or the year, or whatever. Bertie, birthday boy start.
Yeah, Bertie, I feel pretty good. Went to Camelot this morning, as you do.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I am really tired at the same time. I've just been like trying to sleep a lot. Well, sleeping a lot. I don't know, finding it hard to wake up and get up recently. Yeah, bit brain dead. The triggered thing, I thought there was a recent one, which was I got triggered back to secondary school by a guy in the check-in groups, and I was kind of projecting my very scary teachers, like a couple of very scary teachers, onto him. Had this kind of quite Scottish bloke as an assistant headmaster who always managed to be there when I was, breaking the rules in some way. I didn't break them often, but whenever I did, he'd magically appear and give me a bollocking. And yeah, so that was a recent triggering. What was the last one?
Oh, the fuck it thing can come in later. 3, 2, 1, fuck it. Turning things around rather than trying to work them out in their head and let them own you. Do you want to explain what this means for people that don't get what gets triggered here and where it goes back to and how to manage it or turn it around?
I think you kind of summed it up. Like, I felt like feelings and stuff going on in the background after I'd interacted with this guy, and I didn't know quite where they're from, or what was going on, or I just felt very uncomfortable, and it was a matter of just being aware of the emotion and like you said, following the feeling and seeing if it reminded me of anything from the past. And yeah, that it was just very, very strongly, I just felt like those teachers.
And now you know where you are. I kind of feel like there's a fork in the road, unless I've missed something. And one says navel gazing and the other says transformation. Where are you and what happens next?
Well, I was actually able to say at least to this guy that he triggered me, and that part of me was just scared of him, like a schoolboy of a head teacher or something like that. And that was enough for me to I don't know, stop giving my power away to him. And since then it's been fine.
No, it makes perfect sense. So you felt it, you followed it, you know what it was, and then you said to the bloke, this is how I feel. And just by naming it, you broke the spell. Sorted.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Sounds like a happy ending to me. Do you want to pass it on?
It was. Go on then, Greg.
I'm Greg, and Nigel, I don't think we've been on a thingy before, so hello.
Greg.
I'm feel great. The trigger thing is, I've had quite a day really. Kenny and I were together this morning on a check-in. You're implicated actually, Bertie, somehow in this. I don't know how. We'll talk about it later perhaps. Anyway, it was just three of us on this check-in, and I was triggered with a capital T and a capital R and I and double G and all of the letters in triggered. So I was in bed sinking further and further down into my mattress this morning, unsure of how quite to break out of feeling flat and a bit awful really. I don't know how I can say the essence of this, just to have it as my check-in bit, but the trigger was feeling neglected, and I felt neglected and unloved and uncared for in a very childish way, without an obvious reason. I mean, I can think of lots of things I was fed up about. You know, Christmas plans buggered up, and my partner's got COVID, and all kinds of things. But none of them added up to the tingling in my forearms and the extent to which I felt like I was sinking. And here I am, alive and well, right? And the reason was because during the check-in we had this morning, so like an advert for check-ins, isn't it? Through the conversation with Kenny and with Ed, I don't like that following the feeling back idea so much. It sounds a bit too simple to me. I like to be more complicated than that. But I suppose what did happen was I followed the feeling back through the conversation, and I was feeling exactly the way I felt about my parents' trauma, and especially my mother's drama, and how I had to hold everything as a little 7 and 8 year old boy without getting any support or comfort. And how, of course, that's not fair, and that's all a sad little tale and everything else. But what I realized was how strong that little boy was in that moment. And rather than it being a source, that just having to be a source of, oh, that's why I feel crap, I'm being triggered by an unhappy thing that happened all that time ago, I kind of was able to reframe that thing that happened many years ago and saw the hero in that little boy rather than just the rather unloved little boy. And that, through that check-in process and then an hour of sitting down and thinking about all that afterwards, has been quite transformational, actually. Absolutely transformational. But it was a case of following the feeling back, having a look at it, and then returning back to the present and feeling differently about the present, the spell having been broken.
Would you say it was as much emotional as mental, or what's the kind of ratio?
I can't quite see in ratios. It's a bit more like integrating those two things really. So it's one thing to be able to know, like intellectually know, oh yeah, I see. That's why I feel shit now, and that's why I feel like a child, because that happened, and this is an echo of that. But I've always been able to do that. That doesn't make me feel any better. The spell doesn't get broken. I think the spell got broken. Right, yes. The spell got broken because I was able to say that to some other men. Felt okay to say it. I wasn't making them feel sorry for me or like me or dislike me. None of that was in. I wasn't talking to a therapist, and therefore I wasn't playing the part of the patient or anything. I was able to say it to a couple of other men who understood. Because they've got their own stuff too. And so it was saying it, that made an emotional difference, and that then made me feel better and differently.
For me, that feels emotional, and being there, it was a story that made sense, and it needs to be put in order for us so it makes sense. So it's not just jumbled up thinkings, feelings. But I felt like as you met yourself there and spoke it out, I could meet you there, or we could meet you there, and it was being there together rather than talking or dramatizing or playing. It's like being there together. And for me, when I met with myself, witnessed with by other people, but when I met, then things shift. And it feels like then, and then later on with yourself, you met that part. And I wonder whether it's turned into, from childish, which is almost judgmental, that's childish, stop it, into childlike, which is meeting the man in you, meeting the child in you, and realizing the vulnerable child, like every child, needs to be cherished. So it's not childish and a problem, but meeting that spirit. And that's what, you know, that's when it shifts for me.
And I do remember this morning, despite it being people who I trust and feel very comfortable with, I remember I remember not feeling okay to say. It still felt not quite, I still had to put a bit of energy in to say, look, I think this is what I'm frightened of saying, or worried about saying. And no one said, oh, go on, say it anyway. or nobody said, well, if you don't feel like it, you don't have to. It was just up to me to say whatever I wanted to say. And that's different from most environments, I think. If there'd have been a woman in the room, I wouldn't have said it.
Why?
Because that would have increased my feeling less than grounded. That would have increased my need to show myself as strong and capable, and big boys don't cry. And women like Clint Eastwood, not Woody Allen.
Or a fluffy puppy.
Yeah.
So it's either I'll be your cutesy boy, or I'll be the other one. Yeah, that I've heard that so much over the years, is the difference with a woman in the room is, and with men in the room, age, race, class, sexuality, none of that comes into it. But with a woman in the room, and it's the same the other way around. When I used to hold women's groups, I was surprised at how the women changed as well when it was a mixed space. And the most common are, I'm the hero that should get all the attention, or I'll be your puppy and you be my mummy. So here we are, bunch of blokes. Thanks, Greg. Done?
Yeah.
Fancy passing it on?
Oh yeah, Nigel.
Great. I'm Nigel. And how do I feel? I feel tired today, I think. Maybe almost purposely so. Maybe getting rid of the last bit of shit to end the year. I don't know, like a sort of emotional cleanse. But I just out of the blue woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, and I've been up ever since. It feels like I've had 2 days so far. So feeling, quite knackered. I think I almost felt a little bit apprehensive of that sort of chatter, like, you know, once recorded, it's out there and it's permanent, and what you say, you know. And I think being in the health field, if you didn't know, Greg, I worked for quite a few years as a personal trainer. So, you know, like, I spent probably a lot of time, in a sense, as personal trainers do, as some coaches do, putting on a brave face. So it's a bit like, you know, take care of the people around me, but then, you know, that's my work, so just get on with it. So in some ways, a bit like similar to what you said there, you know, like big boys don't cry, or put on a brave face. So can't remember where I was going with this, but then that reflects on.
You said you felt hesitant about
the call
still being recorded.
Yeah, so it's kind of it. There is a little bit of hesitance for me, like, you know, once recorded, it's there permanently. But also the confidence that I know I can sort of look back and see my own growth, and, you know, and I'm sure others can see that in themselves, and they can sympathize with that as well. So happy to be here. But I nearly dropped Bertie a message and nearly said, oh, I can't make it today, I just feel exhausted. So I just thought, since the saying goes today, fuck it, I'll turn up and just see what happens.
Excellent. And anything to say on triggers?
Triggers, oh God. I think if it was come down to triggers, I'd be like one of those Gatling guns. I'd be firing off bullets all over the fucking show. I think I'm always triggered. You know, the biggest triggers for me are just probably the expectations I put on the people around me to understand things as I think I understand them. Yeah, constantly triggered. I'm triggered by this whole situation at the moment. What is the truth? All that type of stuff. But at the same time, kind of enjoy my own space. But triggered by that and all. So whole round of triggers.
So are you triggered as a matter of course? Is that a way of life?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't want to sort of harp on about having brothers, but maybe, you know, part of having brothers is like, you know, ready to be triggered or expecting to be triggered, or come to think of it, I've never really thought about it like that. But, you know, as I've probably said in kind of past groups and stuff, I think it's only now that I've actually, or the last few years, actually started to feel more comfortable around guys. You know, they were always competition. They were always the one that was going to take advantage, but actually I felt like that about women anyway. So, yeah, so I think triggered for a lot of my life. Yeah. So my default setting probably is get ready to be triggered. Part of survival.
And I remember meeting you a good few years ago, and you were totally different then. The way that you thought, the way that you were just tense, waiting to be pounced on type thing. So obviously a lot has changed somehow. So even if you are being triggered same as before, it seems that your relationship to life has changed. You're aware of the triggers, but clearly something's changed. Or maybe you haven't noticed because you've been with yourself all this time with the gradual triggers, like turning up the gas on the frog in the pan or something. Anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or like the lingering friend that just doesn't fucking go away. Like, can you fuck off back to your past and let the new me carry on forwards?
As you said that, I wonder whether that's the opposite to Greg today, because I know that for me, all this inner child shit, I just don't like the term. And I used to think to the little boy in me, fuck off, I'm busy. Can't you see I'm trying to survive? I haven't got time for any of this shit. Just fuck off. But it was only once I connected, rather than running away or avoided or demonized or whatever, that things shifted, that my relationship to life can change. And I guess it is like Greg and I were just saying now, the man in me met that boy in me, rather than the boy in me kept surviving and denying what was being dragged around. But you've, in my eyes, changed your relationship to life. Totally different person. And my triggers set off all sorts of inner DJs, which is good, as I'm sure you've noticed. Anything else you'd like to say?
That's it, thanks. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Do you want to pass it to Des officially?
Go on, Des. All yours.
Thanks, Nigel. So yeah, my name is Des, and well, I feel very good to be on the call. Although I've been facilitating over the Christmas period, I didn't really want to do groups during this week because I knew I was going to be on tonight and tomorrow, so I wanted a bit of time for myself. But thinking about these Well, and my how have I been? I have been low. It undisputable. I've been low to very low, and I think that it's partly circumstantial because my partner had to, at the drop of a hat, fly off to Kenya on Christmas Eve, which was hugely stressful for us both because of all the practicalities, let alone the family obligations behind that. So Christmas suddenly I landed, like a real bump. And my emotional experience of Christmas and New Year generally are that they feel like road humps. You know, they're in the way, they're uncomfortable, but much more so this year. It's an interesting term, trigger. I don't think I was really aware of it until we got ourselves deeply into our check-ins during this year, which for me personally have been a lifesaver, anchor points in the day during an emotionally bleak period for myself and for most people. But triggers certainly over the last few days have been quite frequent. I mean, I was very powerfully triggered on our group on Sunday morning, and it was such a powerful trigger, and I haven't fully unraveled it. It was quite complex, but I know it related to a friend of mine for whom lockdown was already a way of living before lockdown became fashionable this year, and that had sort of a lot of poignant feelings for me. But I had quite a powerful trigger on Christmas Day, and it was an old friend of mine. Putting it like that reminds me of that sort of term of Hannibal Lecter when he's having an old friend for dinner. It was extraordinary. This friend who I've had a sort of an uneasy relationship with, but there was something about Christmas Day afternoon when he rang, and I felt that he rang at a point that he thought I would never be picking up the phone. But I did. And there was something about that call, and I knew, I felt I was being emotionally robbed, cheated. It was a very powerful feeling. And I think one thing I've learned in our interactions, in our men's groups, is to peel away the layers of uncomfortable relations, even if it's amongst ourselves. I think we have an ability to be honest with each other that sort of gets pretty much there. I don't think we always get there, but we get there a lot more than my 66 years worth of experience. And this call, I knew when I finished, this call had finished, and it finished very quickly, that I'd been robbed. Something had been stolen, and I tackled him on it via text messages. Short and sweet, but I didn't want to go into it in depth. I've got plenty of other things to think about on Christmas Day, and good things too. But it reminded me of the whole emotional language that has and had been so common in the family life. And it's basically, it operated on control, not on being cherished. And how that came so powerfully for me on Christmas Day, it was that in the morning, I had a Zoom call with my ex's family, And this particular family, which isn't my blood family, there is a whole wealth of closeness and emotion there. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And so, without laboring at the subject of trigger and the many ways trigger has happened in these recent days, I am more aware of why I get triggered, and whether it's just straightforward, good old-fashioned paranoia, that's quite easy to unravel, but it's when you feel something has been pulled away from you, and it's a very vivid feeling. You feel it in your gut. There's a heaviness in it. You get put off your dinner. It really works itself out physically. And so, yes, these days have been shit. The year's not been much better. But wow, have I learned a lot. I have learned a lot. And I'm very grateful for these platforms. I'm not trying to upsell it because this is being recorded, but give credit where credit's due.
Thank you. So I kicked off with mine, and I wonder about doing another quick round, but this time this is the 3-2-1 fuck it thing for me. And there are a couple of others, but how do you turn it around? Because listening to us, we're doing very well. One way or another, shit's been flying. We're doing very well right now. And, one for me, obviously, is like check in. And as Greg said, speak it out. And that's one way of turning it around. But how have you turned it around? Do you have any tricks and techniques? Who fancies starting and passing it on?
Turned around being triggered?
Yeah, from the panic or the survival or the being vamped by someone to safe, balanced, peace. Yeah.
I don't mind kicking it off. I was just sort of thinking about the word triggered to me in all the different ways in which I understand it. And then I'll go into the bit because it kind of feeds into how I feel I'm able to turn it around sometimes. And I think my kind of learnings as I've grown up has always been to say sort of fuck it, let's tackle it now. But actually now I'm able to say to myself, you know what, now's not a good time for me. I want some space, so I need to go for a walk. And that understanding helped me understand my dad more. That was also triggered a lot. And I never used to see him take his space. He used to just stay with it, and it used to wind him up. I mean, I still get wound up with things, but I think being a bit easier on myself to say it doesn't have to be tackled now. And actually, if I'm to step into empowering myself, I'm able to say, well, I'm obviously the one that's choosing to be triggered by this, or it's triggering something in me. So that's interesting. What can I learn from that? Or is it just the fact that today I don't have the resources to deal with this? So I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to kind of step back.
That's well powerful. It's just stopping, taking your space and choosing, responding rather than reacting. And I would say fear, panic, abandoned little boy, survival, reaction. But when there's a man in the room, then there is the space to choose, accept, respond. Good on you, Nigel. Thank you.
Cheers, Kenny.
Do you fancy passing, or does someone want to go?
I've got something, I think. I haven't thought this through in a way that I can describe it as a Greg's tip number 4 to handle yourself when being triggered. But let me have a go at this. This is examples rather than the theory. So I was triggered from about yesterday afternoon on with stuff, and I'm feeling neglected. So okay, so the tips are going to come through the story, I think. So I'm feeling neglected yesterday by my partner. Please God, don't let her ever see this. So I'm feeling neglected yesterday. And actually, I think she'd be all right about it. And so I'm feeling neglected, right? I've already signaled to her by being passive aggressive repeatedly that I'm not in good shape. So she ought to understand that I need help, right? Because I've been difficult and rather rude all morning. So she knows. She knows. But despite that, she's choosing not to shower me in love. Okay. Despite me helping her with all kinds of stuff because she's not very well. So then some hours later, I'm on my own. I'm walking around the heath here in the cold and the dark. And I'm thinking, well, it's now been about 3 hours. And yet she still hasn't sent me a message saying, you're all right, I'm a bit worried about you. She's choosing to take care of herself, unreasonably, in my view. So my tip is the same one as you said, Nigel, is don't react, give it a minute. So I was about to send a text saying something passive aggressive, like, do you know what the time is? Or I take it you're not going to speak to me at all ever again, or something equally unhelpful. But I could always dress up as a bit of a joke, really. I only meant it as a joke, but of course it's just a little stab. So tip number 1 is the same as Nigel. Then tip number 2, I picked it up yesterday from or day before, from someone said, if you can't get it, give it, or something like that, which I really liked. So I thought, fuck it, I'll try that. 3, 2, 1, fuck it, I'll try that. I'll ask her if she's okay.
In a loving way or a passive aggressive way?
Oh, it's right on the edge. I know it's on the edge. I know it's marginal. All right, there's a slight, all right, it's not perfect because there's a bit of it is still cropped. But I thought, no, come on, I'll just go how she is. And a bit of me was switching at this point into, I know she's not very well, actually. So, all right, so I went for the, if you can't get it, give it. So I sent her a message, how are you, bloody, bloody, blah. And that worked. She responded, came back to me, and we were in contact. Yes, that's tip number 3, I think. Contact. Make contact with someone you love or you care for or you need. I think that's tip number 3. And then I did what felt difficult. I did tip number 4, which I was vulnerable. I said, I'm feeling a bit lost and a bit fed up. In response to her, I'm okay, how are you? And that did it. She was lovely. She said, me too, why don't you come over? Kind of thing. Blah, blah, blah. Then I've got another one. So all that's carried on, but I woke up this morning sinking through the mattress, fed up. And
could you put your video off and on again? Oh, there you go, you're back.
Oh, sorry. I know this, is this all right? I'm going on.
Perfect. This is just absolutely brilliant.
Right, I'm on something here. So this morning, so I learned a bit from that. I felt good about myself. I thought I didn't snap at her, even though I'm not feeling great. And that was all right. And then this morning I felt rubbish. And she and I had a bit of contact. And I did say I was feeling a bit rough. And I still didn't get quite as much love as I wanted. But I don't think I am. I don't think that's going to be the answer for me, getting as much love as I want when I'm feeling rough. I don't think anyone could do that for me. There's something I've got to do. And I had my conversation this morning with Ed and Kenny, which was great, which I explained a bit earlier about. And I made contact with what's going on for me. Why am I feeling so shit? So it became intellectually and emotionally integrated and connected up. And I started to realize that I'm projecting onto her all the things onto my mother. And, she's got her own struggles. It's not her job to look after me. It was my mum's. And she didn't do it. But that's not the same as my partner. She's not looking after me right now because she's got her own life to lead. And it's a challenging one. I'm not her only concern. Yeah, obviously. But then what happened was, we had the conversation, it was all right. A few hours passed because I was busy doing stuff. And I got a message from her saying, are you still coming over tonight? what she really said was, anyway, what she really said is, are you coming over tonight? Now, of course I'm coming. It's been agreed. Why is she even asking the question? What the fuck? Of course I'm coming over. Why is she pushing me away? Why is she making that a question now? I thought that was all agreed. And then I realized she's triggered. She's worried about, she's caught in it herself. And I realized it. So I phoned her up. I said, "Look, conversation. Why are you asking me that question?" She said, "Oh, it's just that." She says, "It's just that I haven't heard from you." And I said, "Well, did you want more contact from me then? Was that the thing? You wanted more contact from me?" She said, "Yeah, I suppose so." I said, "So when you said to me, 'Are you coming over tonight?' You weren't really asking, 'Are you coming over tonight?' Are you? You're saying something else. You're saying, 'I haven't heard from you. I'd like to hear from you.'" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Right, that was the same as me last night, wasn't it? How about, why don't you and I do a deal? Why don't we trust each other so that if you really need me because you're feeling shit, or I really need you because I'm feeling shit, it's okay to say that. Rather than saying, 'Are you coming over tonight?' or what? Or me having a... Anyway, that's tip number 5, yeah, is then share your learnings with your partner. Sorry, I've gone on and on, haven't I?
No, that was brilliant. And also, in my books, damn courageous, because it's so easy to have dramas and rows and it's also, and sex. It's easy, it's intimate, it's a fix.
Yes.
But to have the...
I'm still hoping for the sex, though.
Oh, yeah. It depends on if it's needy sex or fixed sex rather than intimate sex, which is scary sex, which is the only way to do it most of the time. Anyway, but to be vulnerable like this and to offer yourself as a vulnerable person, that's powerful. But I wonder whether what you did earlier on is part of it as well. Because
totally.
The man in you took care of the boy in you. So you're not offering that boy to her to take care of. You're offering yourself because you're available. And you doing that invites her to the party to meet you there. Now that is so where it's at. Good on you.
It was thing, and there's a thing between us now is very different. I can feel it through the airwaves. You know, we've connected on something.
Wow.
Instead of me being bitter with her for not supporting me like my mum never did, and her being bitter with me because I don't look after her probably like her father didn't. You know, okay, well, you just ask me if you want me and I'll do the same with you. How about that? Okay.
Now that's the way to end 2020, eh?
Yeah.
That's the way to begin the rest of your life. With her, but with everyone and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's propped up by the conversation we had this morning, you, me and Ed, Kenny. I mean, you know that. The rest of you don't, because obviously you weren't there, but it was just what we said. It was like, connecting up the boy with the man. I'm not being embarrassed about that, even I'm, old enough.
Got to know better.
Nearly said
it. Bollocks to that.
Totally.
Right. Fancy passing it on.
Oh God, yeah. Bertie.
The one thing that came to me was for this recent thing where I got triggered, I can't remember how, but I was like Googling and I ended up on an article about the positive side of being triggered or something like that. And that was really helpful, actually, like to see it as a positive thing and to see it as this is actually like a sign of somewhere you should, dig a little deeper. And, if you get triggered by something, that's probably a sign you have to go towards it. And that really makes sense to me, because every time I have been triggered and I've like gone towards it or whatever, I've just learned so much. And peeled away layers and let go of baggage and stuff like that. So I guess my tip would be seeing it as a positive thing.
Thank you.
Go on, Des.
Yeah, I was interested in your account there, Greg, of this sort of maneuvering in a way, and I suppose in order for me to turn around a trigger, I've got to be feeling pretty good. I mean, sort of awake, rested, tuned in. If it hits me at a low patch, you know, like not enough sleep, low ebb, I've been maybe overdoing the people pleasing or spending too much time on calls and Zoom, etc. Then if a trigger arrives, I'm not ready to deal with it. But you know, during the year where lockdown has pushed me and my partner together, and triggers have happened because his work has moved indoors, and there's been all that sort of COVID claustrophobia, you know, let alone the issues of mask wearing and covering your face and denying your feelings, etc. But triggers have, some have come around slowly, you know, like pot boiling resentments, and others are razor sharp. And one thing I need to be aware when I'm managing those with my partner is that the language that you guys and I have got used to in these rooms is far slicker and sharper and to the point. That sort of language is not general public consumption. You know, people don't want to go to a lot of depth in many ways, and certainly where my family is concerned, you know, we ain't going there at all. You know, it's a complete. It's just don't even think about it. You know. You know, take it to the grave, you know, make yourself sick and die, but don't talk about it. So I was interested to hear that. And all those little maneuverabilities of vulnerability and resentment and will she this, and interesting. But in a way, that's the language of love, isn't it? And relating, that you have somebody that you can do all this little bit of moving around with.
Yes. Can I say, just, you've helped me think about something else for myself, is I think each of those little moments that I've described, I did something slightly different from my pattern. Just, you know, so it took a little. That's why I think you can't just react, or I can't just react. I had to move slightly out of my comfort zone to be vulnerable, or to give rather than give the thing that I'd want if I'm not getting it. Or there's something about awareness, isn't there? And then a tiny bit of, let's call it self-discipline, that means you, instead of falling the way you always fall in that situation, just to do something not radically different, but slightly different. Anyway, that's what I was thinking of saying based on what you said, Des.
Yeah, be creative. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my patterns are patterns because they are patterns. Like, that's, you know, that's what we mean.
Yeah, but I think it's when we realize that our patterns often spiral way down and very fast.
Yes.
And, you know, and I can get ugly very quickly. So it's a question of, you know, just watch where I'm being pulled down. And often it's just a matter of take a break. And the advantage of being older with a bladder like an older man is that you're always having to take a break.
Yeah.
So when you're forced to take a break, you can think, oh, how's this going? You know, how could I change it? How can I bring a bit of love into it?
So that space and going from fear into love.
Yes.
Thank you. I guess for me, there's the following the feeling, but that's the second thing I do. That's if something doesn't shift faster. And for me, if I'm triggered or anything's up, my habit has always been straight to the head, second guess, run to the hills, sort it out, and that's where I'd stay. Totally disconnected from life, totally unavailable, pretending to be in control and fix it, but never actually having fixed anything. And when I admitted that I'd never fixed anything, and that I wanted to take part in life, that's when I came up with the not thinking to the end of the sentence, because that was my addiction. It was the thinking. And I was never breathing when I was thinking. I was in panic. So I needed to safely come down. So as soon as I found myself lost in space, no thinking to the end of the sentence, deep breath in. And as I breathed in, I learned to say or think, thank you for reminding me who I used to be. And that's the end of it. And then when I breathe out, I engage with what's in front of me. And that's it. And sometimes I might need to do it a few times. And it was a bit weird and boring in the beginning, but now I rarely do it because I just automatically adjust, get out of my head and get present again, here and now. Because I was trying to fix my fears and fantasies of the future that don't even exist anyway, or my paranoia, or being spooked by something unconsciously. I wasn't here. I thought I was open and loving and intimate and whatever, but no, I was just spinning plates and running around in circles, manipulating as a way of life. And never satisfied because never touched, never available. But breaking that spell and just being here and now, game changer. And I guess that's that same as what you're saying, is take the space. But for example, if I need to say something to someone, something scary, or do something, like when I went bungee jumping over in New Zealand, Lake Taupo, it was 3, 2, 1 jump, or 3, 2, 1 bungee. And it was really stupid to be standing there at the edge of a really high cliff over a lake. And it's like, no fucking way am I going anywhere. But I did. And I guess it's since then, with anything I have to do or say, rather than thinking, it's got to be 3, 2, 1, fuck it. And my mouth opens and something comes out. And when something comes out, it doesn't matter if it works or not, it just needs adjusting. But yeah, game changer. But don't want to think about it anymore. I lost most of my life to that. Smart asses we are, eh? Hands up if you think you're a smart ass. Oh.
I've always
a relief.
Double.
Well, I think we should end on a high. Also, partly because I've got a client now, so I've sent him a message saying I was going to be late, and as I sent a message, Nigel dropped off. So how cheeky was that? How about quick last round of top of your head attitude for the next year? Attitude, not intentions or anything. Attitude. Nigel?
God, it just come to me really quick there, which is I just felt myself saying walk away. And I think what I meant by that is, and it's, some of you guys have said some stuff in here about when we're in these groups and the way that we talk and respond. I can almost feel like I'm Superman in the groups, and then I come out and it's like everyone around me is fucking kryptonite. And it's almost a bit like, why are they not actually, what's going on with these people? And I notice it on an everyday thing when I'm out and people are talking to each other, and I'm like, they're not even listening to each other. And I can find myself going, fuck it, just walk away, go and do your shopping. You haven't got to stand here and help anyone or help anyone understand. Just go and help yourself. So that's my final word.
Thank you. Greg?
I can't quite find it. It's something about like calm and steady. I don't mean slow. I'll never be slow, but I mean like respond, not react, or something like that.
Being with?
Yeah, maybe it's something in there. It's something to do with that, and to do with responding from love. Maybe it's that, really, responding from love, not anguish or fear or anything else. And in order to do that is to just hang on, hold on to yourself, Greg. Whoa, hang on, steady there, slow down a bit. I think that's sort of.
That reminds me, yesterday, a friend, someone who Andrew and I know, a guy called Jerry Jampolsky, died at the age of 95. And I think it was the 70s that he wrote the book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. With a title like that, don't even need to buy the book. Thank you, Greg. Des?
I think I've been using lockdowns and this year to increasingly learn from shadow stuff. You know, what's going on in the background. And weed out the shadow, look at it, learn from it. It's so empowering.
Thank you. Birthday boy.
One thing that you've said before, Kenny, that I really like is less thought, more action. That's one that came to me.
Thank you. For me, sharp. I just fancy being sharp and things sharpening up next year. Because I feel very lucky that I've got inner DJs and fun stuff happening, and all of that's great. I feel really cool with that. Sharp, it's time to be sharp. And last week I kind of thought, yeah, I'm going to unlearn my dyscalculia after my long list of, OCD and Tourette's and God knows what. Last bit, and I've always accepted it and quite liked it, but no, I want to know facts and figures and get sharp next year. I want that efficiency now. So let's see. And I think surely the best way to end this year, the best way to end this group is, and we haven't rehearsed this, so I hope it works, is on the count of 3, then you don't go 3 to 1. How does that work? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Oh, happy started.
To you.
Happy birthday, dear Bertie.
We're slowing down, am I?
Happy
birthday to you.
That was like a bunch of drunken old codgers, eh?
Yeah, that was a bit special.
Just blame it on the lag.
So what am I supposed to say to end? Am I supposed to be saying anything about anything? mensgroups.co.uk, ground rules, and there's information about the daily check-in groups and other bits and bobs, blah, blah, blah. Go on.
So we do have the freebie, so mensgroups.co.uk/emotions, and you've got a cheat sheet for dealing with being triggered.
Nice one. And my cardboard cutout ebook. Then you can read and hold your own groups and stuff. Right. Oof, look at that. 4 minutes before my client. So 30 seconds of this. Happy New Year.
Yeah.